Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Lance Luke, and I'm going to be presenting an interesting topic that's really top of mind about the COVID and uh, the building safety issue. So it's not necessarily about a health topic per se, but it's connected to maintaining your buildings. I gave a seminar uh, a while ago on senior safety in the home, and this is just expanded to include buildings like any kind of commercial building, condominium building, hotels, shopping centers, that type. And uh, I want to introduce Martin Pea. He's the back end IT guy, and he'll be helping if we have any technical difficulties or anything like that. He'll also be fielding the questions. So if you have any questions, you can ask anytime. There's a by using the chat feature or the Q&A feature, and there's even a raise hand feature if you want to ask your question live. What we'll have to do is uh, click on your microphone so you're able to talk if you choose to use that feature. Because I'm the presenter and I have a PowerPoint, I'm not viewing the chat or the Q&A questions. So I'm not going to be seeing it, but Martin is the one that will be reading it if you do have any questions. So we put together a series of Ask the Building Expert webinars on different building topics to help you. And we're appealing to homeowners, building owners, condo associations, property managers, and anybody who's interested in the topics that we have to offer. And by the way, we welcome all your questions. So if you have any, please um, ask them. Also, comment if you like the webinar or if you think there's room for improvement, and we'll be happy to read and take it into consideration. This webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, and the topic is Building Safety COVID-19 Protocol. So let's get started. The best practices for a safe building. My references are the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and there's also two main national property management associations. One of them is IREM, Institute of Real Estate Management, and the other one is BOMA, Building Owners and Managers Association. And those are the two main national associations that a lot of professional property management companies and property managers belong to. There's also OSHA and HIOSH. HIOSH is actually uh, basically OSHA, but it's for Hawaii. Now, this whole issue is managing risks and taking care of health. The last count today, uh, recently, the report was huge numbers, like 500,000 people were affected by COVID, and even more around the world. So we want to take into consideration the risk management. So anytime any public visits your building, and it doesn't matter who these people are, but there's also the general public. There's also employees and vendors, contractors, and anybody who basically enters a commercial building. So there have been cases of employees actually suing their employer, and it could be a building owner, property manager, uh, similar to like a premises liability, like a slip and fall case, but their injury was not due to a slip and fall or a trip and fall hazard. The problem was that they went to work and they contracted the COVID virus, and then they went home and spread it to their family. So there's actually active lawsuits right now based on that. So how do we manage risks? We manage risks by first communication. So building owners and managers, resident managers, site managers, general managers of hotels and other commercial property, property and rental managers, employees, vendors, contractors, every one of these people should all be in communication. Basically, the management should be communicating with everybody else because it starts from the top down. So, how do we do that? Well, there's certain key people that are involved, like the managers, and there's also security. And security plays a very important role in protecting the property. So there's the security and signage. There's no law today. If anybody knows of one, let me know. But there's no law restricting the amount of signage that you can put up on your building. And to me, the more signage, the better, because you want everybody to be aware of what's going on. Some people think that they can post a sign in the lobby, or let's say you're in a condo building and they post a sign in front of the elevator, and because everyone uses the elevator. And so they post it there and think everyone's going to read it. But the problem is, and I've had this situation where the people who live on the second floor never use the elevator. They take the stairs, so they never see the sign. Okay, so be cognizant of where you post the signage. You post it in the lobby, you post it in front of the elevator, you have signage everywhere. So you don't have a situation where someone says, I didn't see the sign. Okay, so security plays a big role, especially in uh, bigger buildings where they have security personnel. Smaller buildings, usually the resident manager, site manager acts as security too. But in bigger buildings such as office buildings downtown and bigger condominium buildings like Kaka'ako area and other areas where it's more luxury and they pay for security, security plays a big role. Why? Because they're the frontline people. Okay, so make sure that the security staff is aware of all the regulations that the building has. And if one person that's assigned security is sick and a new guy comes, that new guy should be able to follow the same rules. Just because he's new, he can't say, well, no one told me that I was supposed to tell the people to wear masks when they come into the building. So proper training is key, even for new people. They should all be cross trained. Now, what areas should we be concerned with? Common areas to be maintained. So, this is a photo that I took in Funchal, Madeira, which is owned by Portugal. It's an island, and they have this really fancy and huge pool area. They had like two or three pools and chairs. It's sort of like a luxury resort type of hotel. And I noticed, and I was there a couple of years ago, and I noticed that the staff did an excellent job of cleaning everything. And this is now pre COVID. So it was almost like they followed the COVID cleaning rules, but COVID didn't exist at the time. They were wiping down chairs and sweeping and doing everything to clean. So it looked nice and clean. Anytime you go to that area at any hour, it's clean and it looks nice. So it's almost like the Disneyland concept. Of course, it's a tourist destination, so more so. But if everyone followed what their cleaning procedure was, I think we'll be better off. So, what other common areas are we looking at? Okay, so there's walkways, grounds, entrances, and as you know, in a lot of high tourist destinations, there's a whole bunch of people that traipse through the walkways, grounds, entrance, even if the hotel visitors are not hotel guests. And this happens a lot in Las Vegas, where you got people from the general public just going through your hotel. And they're not guests, they're just visitors. And that's partly because they have a lot of casinos and everybody wants to go and gamble or take a look at what's going on in the hotel. They have these huge exhibits, and the fancier hotels have different exhibits that you can look at. So basically, they want to attract everybody to their hotel. Now, I'm not sure where this photo was taken. Okay, lobby and restrooms. The most used areas of a building, and it doesn't matter whether it's an office building, a hotel, a condominium building, the most used areas are your lobby and your restroom. So imagine you're at a fancy hotel and you're in the lobby hanging out. You got not only guests of the hotel, but you got your maintenance people, you have visitors that come to visit the hotel guests. If the hotels have a convention going on, now you got hundreds or maybe thousands of people traipsing through the lobby and using the restrooms. So those areas have to be cleaned more, many times a day, because there's a lot of high touch areas where people are sitting down, like the armchairs, the coffee table, and things like that. Now, play and exercise equipment, pool areas are areas to be really concerned with as far as cleaning. And it would be ironic if someone got sick from exercising. So, play areas, kids just run around and all that. So, all that play equipment needs to be cleaned thoroughly, and exercise equipment, it needs to be wiped down. Even if the people using it get off the machine and wipe it down themselves, the staff still needs to clean it. And the play area is outdoors and it's a better environment. The exercise area is indoors with air conditioning, and that's not such a good environment for COVID. Okay, so be aware of these areas. The pool area is outside in the open air, and if people practice their 6 feet distancing, they should be okay. Now, what about air conditioning? Okay, there's this term called IAQ, which stands for indoor air quality. And the references, if you need further information on this subject, is the Environmental Protection Agency, CDC, your State Department of Health, and your State Department of Health. And it doesn't matter which state you live in, and some of you attending maybe from California, Nevada, Georgia, or any other states. If you go to your state Department of Health, there's an indoor air quality department or branch or section. And basically, they get their information from the EPA. And this is not something new. The indoor air quality issue have been around for many years. And all national property management associations also follow the best practices with respect to air conditioning and indoor air quality. So it's not something that just came about because of COVID. It's something, an issue that's been around for many years, but because of the COVID situation, the indoor air quality and air conditioning became more prevalent because it's could be a contributing factor toward the spread of COVID, and I'll talk more about that soon. So we're talking about air conditioning. So there's a inspection and maintenance. Now, how often do you think that we need to inspect and maintain your air conditioning? And I know some of you, uh, especially if you live in Hawaii, your house may not be air conditioned. You may have jalousie windows, but the other people who have air conditioners or commercial building, every commercial building has air conditioning, whether it's a hotel, golf course, dining room, restaurant, and any number of commercial properties have air conditioning. And so it's very important that you check the written manufacturer's guidelines for maintenance. So read the fine print, and there's no such thing as an air conditioning system where it's set it and forget it. You turn it on and you don't have to worry about it. So think of it as like you're in an airplane uh, flying from Honolulu to New York, and you're sitting on that plane for hours on end, and what's going on with the air. So hopefully the filters have been changed and the circulation of the air is constant. Okay, so same thing with the air conditioning in your building. I have read inspection and maintenance instructions from at least 22 air conditioning companies. And guess what? The guidelines were in writing as to what to do, meaning what you should do for inspection and what you should do for maintenance. So it's all there. So when I go around and inspect buildings and I ask them, when was the last time you had your air conditioning inspected and maintained? And they're like, maybe 2 years ago. I said, well, what does manufacturer say about that? I go, what do you mean? He said, well, don't they have, like you have in your office, the manual or the warranty papers and all that? Oh, well, we don't really read that. Okay, well, that's not a good thing to do, not reading the information. Okay, filter changes and duct cleaning. Okay, question. How often are your filters supposed to be changed? Okay, it depends on the type of system. Generally, every 90 days or 45 days if you have allergic conditions. Well, it doesn't make sense, right, to uh, when people enter the building to ask them, do you have any allergies or allergic conditions? You don't have time for that to ask your workers or visitors. The other thing is, you may not even be allowed to ask because they may say that's a violation of my privacy rights regarding medical records. You have no right to ask me what kind of health conditions I have. Okay, so that may be thrown out, but the general industry standards for filter changes are 3 to 4 times a year. Okay, well, what about ducts? You know what the ducts are, right? It's those square rectangle looking things. And let me show you. You see the photo on the right? That's an air conditioning duct. Okay, so it's now duck hunting season, and go and inspect your ducks. Ducks should be inspected at least twice a year and cleaned when needed, or at least once a year. But it's not for me to say that. It's for the manufacturers to say that, because guess what? If it says to clean and change your filter once a year and you don't do that and you have a problem, the manufacturer can easily say, um, you know what? Your warranty uh, is void now because you didn't follow what we told you to do. So don't blame us that your system broke down because you didn't follow what our recommendations were. And they can just show you the paper and say, when you bought this unit, you have to follow these. Otherwise, it just says you have to follow these rules. Otherwise, your warranty is void. It says that in black and white. And believe it or not, there's air conditioning systems in high-rise buildings, office buildings, hotels, condominium buildings that cost over $1 million. The whole air conditioning system. So it's not cheap. So one negligent act of not following it could void a warranty. So we're talking about some pretty big money here. Now let's move on to plumbing, the plumbing system. Inspect, maintain your DWV system. What does a DWV mean? Is it sort of like a German car? No, that's a VW. The DWV stands for, the D is drain, the W is wastewater, and the V is vent piping. So the D drain is basically used for draining rainwater or regular water. The wastewater is from your toilets or your tub shower, and the V vent piping is connected to your drain and waste lines, and it allows air to escape and the water to flow down the drain. And basically, the plumbing issue is not uh, something that the higher ups don't care about. In fact, the WHO, World Health Organization, has a section on plumbing and the plumbing relative to COVID. Now, an interesting story in China, there, there were reports of COVID spread from cracked vent piping and another case from a cracked wastewater pipe. And the vent piping, and this is interesting, and there have been pros and cons, and people saying, well, I don't know if that's true or not, but there was an apartment building, and two people got COVID that lived on different floors, and they they were not exposed to anybody that had it. So the investigation was they caught it because the virus got spread through the vent piping, and every floor has the same piping configuration. And so there was some kind of crack in the pipe. Another case was the people flushed the toilet, and there was a cracked drain wastewater pipe that went out in the road, and then the people got contaminated that were in the road, and they did studies and they figured out that the people that got contaminated in the road had the same virus as the people that lived in that building. And so there was that connection there. I actually wrote about 4 press releases from March of last year at the start of the pandemic regarding COVID and air conditioning and plumbing and other things. I even wrote an interesting one about why there was a shortage of toilet paper, but we don't want to go there now. Okay, inspection and maintenance of your plumbing system. Make sure there's a written program that's followed, and there should always be a guideline. You shouldn't just guess like, what are we supposed to do now? There's always sources that you can refer to. Cleaning and scoping. Scoping is actually running a video camera, like a camera, small little camera connected to hose that looks like a snake and taking a video of the condition of the inside of the pipe. Sometimes the lines are cleaned first. Sometimes the cleaning or jetting causes cracks or holes in old cast iron pipes. So if you're talking about doing this, make sure that you you know the basic condition of the pipe, because there have been situations where there's a clog and they want to clean the pipe, and some uh, gung ho plumber goes in and decides to jet it, and they're using a high psi because they really want to clean that pipe. They're going, okay, we're going to unclog this thing and we're going to get it working so you won't have this problem. And there was one clog, and so they jetted it using a high psi, which is a high water pressure. And because the pressure was so high, it created like 6 holes in the pipe in different locations. So they had one major leak that turned into 6 leaks. So be aware of that situation. Emergency repairs. So if you look at the photo on the left, that's a plumbing pipe with fresh water, and that bursts, and now it's spewing water all over the place. And so, in addition to the COVID issue, there's also a separate problem, and it's a 4-letter word, and it's called mold. So, whenever there's the mold 4-letter word, I always tell people use the 3-letter word, fix, and take care of the problem. So attend to even small leaks because they can turn into bigger ones and cause mold and other problems. Older buildings that have major plumbing leaks have multiple problems because they're an older building, and when the water damages the drywall, popcorn ceiling, and other material, and these older materials, building materials, may contain asbestos, which is another problem. So now you not only have the plumbing problem, now you have a hazmat issue, which requires more contractors or specialized contractors. If you look at the photo on the right, it's of a sewer pipe, a wastewater drain pipe that was buried underground, and there was a leak. So guess what? The plumber has to go and dig through the sewer water and sludge to get to the pipe and fix it. Not not a clean job. So moving along, we're talking about elevators and escalators. There's actually safe use guidelines that someone didn't just make up just for the fun of it. There's a entity called the National Elevator Industry, and they have set standards for safe use of elevators and escalators. So make sure there's proper signage, such as not more than in 2 or 4 people in the elevator. And you probably went to buildings where there's a sign that says not more than 2 people or 4 people, depending on the size of the elevator cab. And then when the doors open, you get in, there may be these round circles or red X's, or, a place where you're supposed to stand. And that's actually good signage. So the guidelines is on the COVID is make sure that all the call buttons are clean inside and out, even the whole panel that has the call buttons are wiped down. This is the inside of an elevator, and maintenance and system check. So inspect and maintain per the manufacturer's maintenance contract. And if your building does not have a maintenance contract, please get one in place, because without the maintenance contract, if your elevator breaks down, they, they could be huge charges. And the elevator doesn't break down during normal working hours, like Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. It likes to break down when it's at night or on a holiday, and you call them for service. And I've seen bills. I had to review bills for elevator repair on an emergency call, and they're charging like $600 an hour and more. Okay, so they're coming in basically on a emergency service call, so it's not cheap. And because it's not written in their contract that uh, in accordance with your maintenance and service agreement, if there's an emergency, they'll come out at any time, and the charge is $300 an hour and not 600 because you're already a paying customer. What's the safe use and occupancy? As I mentioned before, you go in an elevator, and it's a small cab, and there's only two people that are 6 feet apart. You don't cram it in like a telephone booth, see how many people you can fit. So that's a definite no-no about the number of people you can put. Let me back up here. Um, I want to interject something that, as I mentioned before, there's like numerous lawsuits due to COVID. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's time to be aware, especially if you're in the property management business or you're a building owner. There's workmen workmen's compensation claims where workers who contracted COVID while on the job decided to sue their employer. Okay, there's also lawsuits against cruise lines, airlines, other forms of transportation such as trains, buses, subways, lawsuits against healthcare companies like nursing homes, assisted living facilities, hospitals, and then you add hotels, daycares, churches, schools, and the list gets longer and longer. So we we live in a society where it's very litigious and people want to sue for anything. But some of the lawsuits are valid, and uh, the attorneys make money. And get this, even insurance companies are getting sued due to not covering for business interruption and loss of business. So what happens is these business owners who own like a restaurant, they have to close. They make a claim with their insurance company saying, I had to close for months. I didn't make any money, and I need my insurance to cover my loss of income. And the insurance company says, no, we're not covering it because you basically uh, lost your income due to an act of God, because the COVID thing was, we treat it like uh, an a hurricane or earthquake or something of that nature. And so they said, I don't think so. So they get an attorney and they sue the insurance company. So right now in New York and California, there's over 1,200 lawsuits due to COVID for various reasons. There are also lawsuits over price gouging for general consumer goods such as toilet paper and hand sanitizer. So protect your building and protect yourself from these crazy lawsuits. I have even seen ads from attorneys who claim that they now specialize in COVID lawsuits, and it's out there. So everybody's trying to get in on the bandwagon. So before I take any questions, I want to remind you of our upcoming webinars next month. And the topics are concrete spalling repair and one on construction warranties. So if you're interested in how concrete spalling affects buildings, or what the whole process is, or working with a contractor, that would be good. And then the construction warranty one is interesting, is if you're planning on renovating your house or building a new house, or you're going to buy into a new condo, or dealing with a contractor for any reason, the construction warranties webinar would be good, because I cover what is a warranty, the different types of warranties, also what to do if you have to make a warranty claim. And that's important if you need to go there. And we'll be happy if you joined us for that. And then please tell your friends and coworkers. If you don't know, the website to go to for Ask the Building Expert webinars is askbuildingexpert.now.site, and you probably already have that information if you're attending, because that's how you registered for the webinar. So basically, that's the gist. The main message here is to be safe, and everybody knows the drill. Wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance, and all that. But um, don't let your guard down, and be sure when you go into these buildings, and it doesn't matter what kind of building it is, hotel, condo, a golf course, a church, school, anywhere you go, restaurant, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what you touch, and be safe. And basically, that's the main message. We're here to keep people safe, help people stay healthy, and lessen the liability for building owners and property managers and people who basically go into buildings. So I'd like to entertain questions if anybody has. Martin, did you fall asleep?
No, Lance, I'm here.
Oh, terrific. Okay. So did anybody use the chat or have Q&A or
Yeah,
anybody want to?
we have a question in the Q&A here. It's asking, in your experience, do you hear that other people have noticed that their water seems to have chlorine taste nowadays? Recommendations for a water filter system to kind of take care of the chlorine in the water?
Okay, good question. So as far as the water, believe it or not, in Hawaii has one of the cleanest waters because of the lava rocks and the way that the water comes down off the mountain and all that. But uh, there's still a lot of minerals and chemicals in the water, and the situation is that the parts per million is less than uh, what's required to determine that it's a health hazard. So there is chlorine or some kind of chlorine taste in the water. And either if you live in an old house that has galvanized pipes, then you got more old minerals, metal flaking that goes through the pipe. So there's that metallic taste. And so either uh, older piping, or if you taste the water and you have copper piping, and it has that chlorine taste or a taste that is not similar to bottled water or cleaner water, then yes, I would advise getting a water filter. And there's water, different types of filters. Some you can attach to your faucet, and there's some where you have this container where you can put water in, and when you fill it, they have a filter on the top that's like a charcoal thing, or a filter that you can run the water through. So yes, I would recommend you have some kind of filter. And there's some people use filters all the time and they don't use bottled water, and there's some other people that buy bottled water all the time, and there's other people that have water delivered to their house in these 5 gallon containers and all that. You've probably seen those big containers that uh, office offices use and for fresh water. So that's a good question. Definitely, I would use a water filter to make your water cleaner. So thank you for asking that question. Very good. Do we have any other questions in chat or the Q&A?
I don't see any others, Lance, but I mean, if anyone wants to ask, raise their hand, we can open up the mic and they can ask them. Uh, that's that's what I have here so far. Nobody had any questions. You did such a good job covering things.
Oh, well, terrific. I hope that I did a good job and people understood everything and I explained everything well, and that's why they don't have any questions, or uh, they could be totally confused and they don't even know what question to ask because I confused them. But that's probably not the case. So, Martin, what about you? Do you have any questions yourself about the topic?
Gee, I was kind of thinking about the public places, you know, like the hotels. You know, my wife and I would travel. We used to travel a lot, not anymore. But you know, you mentioned about all the things we should do, and I guess I've noticed that a lot of places now they got the hand cleaning things. So is that kind of a standard that that most public places need the sanitizers or those kind of things to you know, keep themselves clean and safe? Because I know my wife is she's one that's always looking for those things wherever we go.
Yeah, actually, it's becoming the norm now. And um, these companies are making money by selling these standalone hand sanitizers. I know I went to several restaurants and they have that. And people can't be expected to be carrying hand sanitizer everywhere they go, although I do. I have a small bottle that I carry with me all the time. But all these restaurants, and especially restaurants you go to, before you even enter to go sit, there's some kind of um, stand with a hand sanitizer or a bottle on a counter, and it's not only for the people, the restaurant to be nice and do that. It's for liability because if you have the restaurant has all these health features and somebody gets sick from COVID at the restaurant and they didn't have that, that's going to count against them. If they have it, they're going, we took all precautions necessary, kind of thing. So it's both for liability reduction and for health consciousness, basically. But yes, it's more so. Even when you go to fancy buildings and hotels, they have that right there. So these companies selling these products are making a lot of money.
Yeah, you're right. I guess it was interesting because when we started traveling 15 years ago, when we were on the cruise ships, they all had those things, and I thought, well, that's a good idea for businesses and stuff. And sure enough, 15 years later, everybody got to have them. So I've got another question here in the chat. As far as the safety issues and requirements for restaurants, is there anything special that they need to do? Along the lines of what you're sharing. Restaurants are suffering now, I know, in business wise. So is there, is this an issue for the restaurants?
Well, as we all know, the restaurants got hit big time because of the pandemic. When it initially hit, all these restaurants were closed, period. And then slowly they started opening up just for takeout. And I know some restaurants um, have takeout, and some today allow dining, but it's every other table or arranged seating and all that. So it's just the whole different setup now. And prior to COVID, the restaurants already had criteria to follow that's dictated by the Department of Health. And the Department of Health inspectors were going there doing their inspections and then putting up those placards, the green paper that says inspected and pass. And they actually closed some restaurants because they didn't follow the guidelines. So pre-COVID, there were already strict guidelines for health. And I can tell you that when I go to Chinatown, and I have to inspect restaurants. All of them do not pass. But um, it's weird because I go outside and I have to look at the front and go, why does this place have a green card that says pass? And I go in the kitchen and it's like they shouldn't pass. So anyway, um, yeah, there's strict guidelines already in place before the COVID, and now it's stricter guidelines. And basically, the general guidelines to follow is you have to, uh, if it's a takeout, it's okay. If it's not takeout and it's dining in, they have to take the people's temperature. They have to have them fill out the form, their name, address, and phone number, so that in the event there is an outbreak or somebody that was infected in the restaurant, they got to do their calls to everybody and tell them, here's what happened. So that's a requirement. The other requirement, as you know, is uh, every other table or 6 feet apart, and you can't have more than 5 people at a time gathering and that. But we're looking like the tier may go up to tier 3, which is more comfortable, but we'll see what happens. And it's very hard to be in the restaurant business today. I know one person personally that actually closed a restaurant because they weren't making enough money to pay their rent, and several other people have told me that are restaurant owners, they're on the verge of closing because they don't know what to do. The rent basically stays the same. Their overhead for employees basically stay the same, but they're not making the income because there are not enough people coming through. So yeah, there's a whole different game now. And when people use the term new normal or that kind of context, well, to me, it wasn't even normal before the pandemic, and now it's even worse. So hopefully, uh, things will get better soon. But good question. We have anything else?
Yeah, there's a kind of a follow-up to the water filter question. It says, this person saw an ad for a company putting a water filter system attached to the plumbing. I guess that might be one of those systems that kind of filters all the water coming into your house that I've seen. Yeah. And so what are your thoughts on that? Those kind of filters on the plumbing system, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure you're talking about the system that you install to your kitchen cold water pipe, and then so when you turn the water on, it filters the water. So any water coming out is already filtered. That's the kitchen one. And on the mainland, they have another system where outside of your house, where your main water comes in, you attach a whole house filter, and maybe uh, that's what you're asking. But I would recommend either one of those. And but if your water is not so good, and you want to filter all the water coming into your house, then you install the whole house water filter. But if you're not concerned, the problem is like if you install the whole house one, it's cleans the water everywhere. So it depends exactly where you're going to put it. Yeah. So if you're deciding to put a whole house one, make sure that they put it after your plumbing that's connected to your yard plumbing, because you don't want to, if you're watering your yard, you don't need to have that water filtered, right? So there should be a separate line where it's only filtering all the water. So in other words, you're going to have filtered water in your kitchen, you're going to have filtered water in your bathroom, but do you really need filtered water to use to flush the toilet. You know, I don't think so, but maybe you want filtered water to take a bath or shower. So, but the main filtering would be at the kitchen because that's where you cook and clean and all that. So, if you have any questions about uh, the type of filter that you're looking at, just send me an email and then I can, you know, give you my advice. So yeah, good, interesting questions. Oh, by the way, um, those filters aren't made to filter out the COVID 19 virus, but I don't think you need to worry about that. Okay, good. Any other comments or questions?
Gee, at this point, Lance, no other questions or no other comments, but
Okay,
like you say,
good.
good questions.
So I guess we can end a little early and have an early lunch. And all the people that attended, I appreciate your guys checking in with us. And I hope you learned something and hope you let other people know about what we're doing and spread the word. And by the way, uh, also mention to them that these webinars are free. So I think that's one of the best things. So until the next webinar, I appreciate you guys attending and hope to see you soon. Thank you very much. Bye. Okay, Martin, what do you want to do now? Do you want to end the Zoom?
I can. I can end it and then we can do a follow up. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you end it and then give me a call?
Will do.
Thanks.
Thanks.